Okay, so before we begin, I just wanted to say that it was really well done, and I really liked it. I especially liked how you followed the structure. Like, I know we talked about that a little bit, but it really shows that you know how to structure an opinion with this piece. You know, you started off with the attention grabber, and then you went into, you know, your evidence and your argument, and you were really assertive with your opinion towards the beginning. And I just felt like overall you understand the structure of an opinion, and that's something that's really hard to come by, like, with writers these days. And so I just wanted to compliment you on that. Overall, I thought your piece was really good. Don't be intimidated by the amount of edits on this paper. You know, again, just want to clarify, I edit a lot, as you know, and so we're just going to go over, you know, your entire story from start to finish, and see what you did well, what you can improve on as well. But again, as I was saying, overall, I think you did a good job with the structure. We're going to talk a little bit more about your attention grabber and your lead or your intro. Okay. And then we're also going to talk about how you can develop more of your own personal opinion in it as well, because those are a few things that I think you can improve on, to put it bluntly. So let's start off at the beginning. Okay, so I really liked your intro, and I think it's really cool that you're tying this to yourself, because this is going to be a high schooler reading it. And so I really like that, you know, I see a lot of McKenna in it, which I really like. I think for, you know, just grammatical things, AP style, Walmart would be Walmart, and it would be capitalized and there's no dash. And I actually had to look that up to make sure. Okay. Google Home. Google, the G in Google would be capitalized, and also the home would be as well, just because you're talking about, like, you know, kind of a brand and an item, and any brand is obviously going to be capitalized in a story. Also, for this sentence, I know that my little comment to the right might not make a lot of sense, but this sentence is, like, really casual, which, like, I think it's a good thing to be casual in newspaper and journalism, but, you know, in this case, you said, I realize how scary people can be when it comes to money and materialistic goods. I feel like it just doesn't really, to put it bluntly, it doesn't sound as sophisticated, I think. You can add more phrasing to make it more powerful, you know, as opposed to casual. So honestly, I would say something like, I realize how committed people are to getting their hands on materialistic goods, because I think that's more powerful and it expresses your point better, and it's just, I think it's more sophisticated, you know, which I get what you're trying to do. I like the casual style, but I think you can change that to make it better. The other thing is Black Friday, the F in Friday would be capitalized, so you can do that. Again, that's a grammar thing. Instead of on, it would be of. Okay. So instead of on its own, it would be of, which is pretty self-explanatory. That's a grammar thing, easy fix. Let's see what else. Right here, you did a lot of this in your story, this thing that I circled here, cut prices and new toys. Rather than having, like, the and break up two descriptors, I think that what you need to do is like find a way to make it more concise by picking either cut prices or new toys. Okay. So I think you could say Thanksgiving and other family traditions have been pushed to the side for the cut prices, but I feel like it would be a little bit too much if you had both. And I feel like the beauty of journalism is being concise in writing, and I feel like it's a little bit too much, you know. And you did that throughout I think I saw it multiple times in your story. So just cut it down to one word, you know. Okay. And writing concisely is a huge part of journalism, so just remember that. Okay, and then also the other thing in addition to that, I feel like it's a little bit more, like, I feel like your opinion is more so about a materialistic culture than just cut prices and new toys. I think that's good evidence for your story, but I would almost change what I circled here to a materialistic culture. Okay. So you could do Thanksgiving and other family traditions have been pushed to the side for the materialistic culture of Black Friday. I feel like that's arguing your point more, and I feel like your opinion is beyond the new toys and the gadgets that you're talking about here. So here, the other thing is you have these demands for deals has unwillingly forced retail workers. I don't think that the deals have forced workers. I feel like the retail workers are unwilling, I think. And I think that you need to change that by moving unwilling before retail.
So unwilling retail? Okay.
Yes, correct. So I think that would really improve that entire thing. But I think that's good. So those are just like the AP style and grammar fixes, but I think that overall, again, as I was saying, you do a really good job of like starting your story with this anecdote, but I feel like there's more to your story. I feel like you only devote one transition at the top to this entire story of you going to Black Friday and stuff, and I feel like you can really become a storyteller in this intro and like basically, you know, go from top to bottom of your experience. You know, think about the 5 senses. You know, what was it like? How did it feel to see so many workers there? How did it feel to see those crowds, you know, pushing through each other? Really dig into yourself and really, you know, describe that, because I think that would make it more powerful, and I would see a little bit more of yourself in it. And I also think, as I said here at the top, I think the jump from here to here is a little bit abrupt. Yeah. I think you go from this little transition of a story to here, and it's just, to me, it's just too soon. I just kind of want to know more about your experience, and I feel like any reader would be interested in that as well. So you can add that. So for this statistic, I really like that you added a statistic, because I feel like a lot of people do not add statistics from what I've noticed, and their opinions are, you know, their opinion articles are really filled with themselves as opposed to the substance, and so this really like hones in on your point and backs it up. The other thing is the billion, like the dollars, the dollar signs and stuff, you did an awesome job on AP style there, which a lot of people don't get. Like, you know, usually I would be correcting these, but like, you did it absolutely correct. You know, you had the dollar sign, you had the billion, and you did the percent correct. You were supposed to spell out percent in AP style, and you did that right. I'm not sure whether you looked at AP style or not, but I mean, you totally nailed it there, so we don't even have to make that correction. Right here, this took me a while to think about, but we're looking at this with the X. I felt like the quote wasn't necessary and it didn't add much to your story for multiple reasons. First of all, I think that if you leave yourself off on the statistic, it's just more powerful. Like, you know, you're making more of a statement. You know, you said what you had to say, and you know, readers can think about that, and then you move on. But with this quote, you're kind of extending on it, and you're adding onto it to kind of like prove to the reader that you're credible, which, like, you know, to me that's a little bit too much. And also the other thing is, I felt like the quote didn't really add much to your argument. You know, it was just a quote from a president saying so-and-so about the organization. I feel like if you didn't have it, it wouldn't really, you know, mess with your story. Yeah, and I think that it kind of interrupts your flow, to be quite honest, with how it's, you know, there right now. So definitely cut it out. After that, the next sentence that you have, it's really powerful. Honestly, it's probably your most powerful sentence in your, you know, entire opinion article, because you said that, you know, it's more than I like the parallelism that you have of give and giving. I really hear a lot of you in this sentence, and I think that working through your opinion and adding more sentences like this, you know, that are as powerful would really significantly improve the piece as well. So you can do that. So I like the sentence. That was a compliment, and that's why I underlined it too. Let's see. So here, this also took me a while to think about, but I was reading back into it, and I feel like these two sentences that you have are really similar to each other, because you have less about giving and more about the money you spend on the presents you give, and then you have gift giving is a tradition that's been carried through several generations, but the pressure to give the perfect gift has become a strain on ourselves. Yeah. So like, you're talking about the pressure of gift giving in both of these sentences. So I think you have to find a way to make it more concise and condense it, and think of this is a quote that I think about a lot in journalism, like less is more. Yeah. Like, the less you have, but the stronger your point is, the more impactful it's going to be, you know? So find a way of making that more concise. I think that would help. So moving on to this next transition. I thought the transition was good. I actually think your solution's really interesting. It's not something that I would think of with Black Friday, but I think that shows you, you know, and I think that, you know, even as a reader myself, not even an editor, I learned quite a bit, you know, from reading your conclusion. Like, the best way to stop this is, like, by not being filled with consumerism, and, like, you know, there are other solutions besides just stopping, you know, shopping, and I think that was an interesting conclusion, honestly. So I thought it was well done. Let's see. I circled consumerism twice because you used it twice, you know, throughout these, and it was pretty obvious, and I do that a lot with stories. I feel like what you need to do is either find the synonym, or you can rephrase and find a way of making your point more powerful by rephrasing. But I feel like I feel like you need to find a synonym for it or something to replace it, because it was pretty obvious going from this transition to this transition that you're using consumerism twice. So I suggested doing like importance of money or something like that. You could do that instead, something along those lines. Okay, so I think we got through everything. Overall, I thought, again, the piece was really, really good. I think it's powerful the way it is, but certain things, obviously, if you make these edits, I think it'll be even stronger. But you really nailed, the structure of the opinion article. I was really impressed with. We didn't have to go through a lot of structure because you really had that down. But certain things that you can add, that would be good. The other thing is, I feel like your opinion can be longer because we're not short on space, and it is, it's almost half a page. It's a little bit more than half a page, but I feel like you can add more to it because we're not short on space, and I feel like you have more to say about it. And I feel like the other thing that I didn't really mention is, you can add more opinion into this piece and make it more of yourself. Really try to be McKenna with it, and try to be as opinionated as you can, because this is your one opportunity to showcase that opinion. And I feel like you can even add more of it, to that. So, but overall, you did a really good job, and I think it's a really good draft. And as long as you make those edits and we go over them again, I think that it will be good to publish, and I think that it's going to have a good student reaction. Okay. Yeah. So, do you have any questions?
Let me look.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Okay, so can you go in more in depth on why you think that it the jump's too far, from paragraph to paragraph?
Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly feel like if you're starting off this piece with an anecdote, it has to have more to it, I feel like to be more interesting and to have an effect on someone, you have to go more into depth. You have to, add the sensory details, add what it felt like. To me right now, it's just a sudden transition, because you're telling a story and then suddenly you go to your opinion.
Yeah.
There's not much evidence to build that up yet. And I feel like if you went back and thought about what it was like, even went back to Walmart maybe, it's weird, but if you go back and just think of what was happening, I think that would help quite a bit as well. So yeah, I think that your idea is really good. I'm not disclaiming your idea, but I think you just need a little bit more into it. Mm-hmm.
So do you think the piece was strong overall, or do you think was it one of my weaker pieces? Do you think?
No, I think that your piece was really strong. I was honestly really impressed. I think this is one of your best pieces that I've read so far. I really do. I think that, again, the structure was on point. I think that your transitions were good. It really flowed well together. It wasn't choppy. I really like stories that have good organization and that each transition means something. And I feel like for you that really meant something. I liked how concise this was, and I've noticed that a lot with your writing. It's really concise. And I think that's good. That's a strength. By all means. Because my problem when I first started writing was that my stories were too long. And I had to cut stuff, but you don't have to cut stuff, in fact I encourage you to add stuff. So I know that the amount of edits might be a little bit intimidating, I get that, but keep in mind that these are just my personal suggestions, and I feel like if you added all of this, it would only make it stronger. So the amount of edits don't say anything about your story. It's still an awesome story. I just think that if you add those things, it will certainly strengthen your content, and it'll make it even better than it is, which it's going to be hard to do because it's already great. So yeah.
Okay, I don't think I have any other questions, but do you have anything that you think would, any more notes or anything like that?
No, I think that as long as you make those edits and I can look at it again and then you give it to Smith, I think we're done.
Okay.
Yeah.